Welcome to Uncensored Beat.
I showed up. U.S. citizen is not permitted entry.
Cover the next big attack.
Zelensky's seemingly fraudulent election.
Bilateral security agreement President Joe Biden signed.
Quebec, the communist capital of North America.
What do Ukrainians think about US? Some believe that the US is to blame for this war.
Welcome everyone to Uncensored Beat, where you'll find the unfiltered truth. My name is James on the Go Bradley.
And I'm Flor Blanco.
And welcome to this very, very special series. We are talking about a recent bill that's been ratified by Governor Newsom, AB 1955. So Flor did some extensive research, reached out to a few politicians as well as community leaders, and I believe she has some great information to share. So Flor, over to you.
Thank you, James. I do. So AB 1955, for those of you who are not familiar, is a California bill that was signed, as Jay mentioned, in July by California Governor Newsom. It's referred to as a Safety Act. And I reached out to a couple of people in relation to that bill. So about 2 weeks ago, the Orange County Department of Education decided to join Chino Valley Unified School District with that suit against the state. And so for those of you who are not aware of the California AB 1955 bill, what it is it's a bill that's restricting the creation of any school policy that mandates school staff to disclose to parents whenever their child expresses any kind of sexual orientation or gender identity situation to them. So this was actually created in response to a series of school policies that were being passed within the individual school boards starting last year in response to claims of concerns by parents and even some school staff about indoctrination occurring within the schools in California without parental notice.
I do recall that. It was quite heated discussions among school boards. And I think you were part of one here in Orange County, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. I'm actually a mother of two children who graduated from Orange Unified School District. Orange Unified School District was one of the few districts within the state that actually passed a parental rights notification policy.
Mm-hmm. And fast forward to today, and they put a bill in, and it's been ratified by Governor Newsom to oppose any autonomy by school boards at this point, making it unlawful.
Correct. And so I did reach out to Assemblyman Christopher Ward's office. He is a California Assemblyman representing San Diego. He is with the Democratic Party. And his office did confirm that the bill is specific to the creation of policies. So it does restrict the creation of policies. However, the office did state that it does not prevent staff from having those discussions with parents and guardians based upon the staff member's discretion. And actually, that interpretation was also backed up by Tracy Henderson of the California Parents Union. Attorney Henderson, founder of the California Parents Union, actually goes a bit further. She says, any school, quote, any school district lawyer that tells you otherwise is giving bad legal advice.
That's founded on fact. There was a Supreme Court decision protecting parental rights. We can speak about that now, or if you want to wait, we can talk about it a little bit later.
No, we could talk about that now. Actually, that's very interesting that you mentioned that. So when the Orange County Department of Education decided to join the suit, at the very end of that meeting, there was a comment by one of the board members that had stated that Bonta, and this is secondhand knowledge, but she had stated that Bonta mentioned there was no way for him to defend this bill.
Who is Bonta for the audience?
So Bonta is a California Attorney General, and he will be representing the state of California in this suit.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And so the reason being is that, and this was mentioned by the board member, is that parental rights have been secured in the Constitution based upon a Supreme Court ruling in 1997.
That's one that we're all kind of hinging upon, and hopefully the state of California will enforce, but it seems to me that they've ignored it altogether.
So the same rights are also secured by FERPA, which is also known as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which requires parents to have access to all of their child's student records.
Well, that's fascinating to know, but they continue to try to enforce this now law. Those that have suits in motion, are you aware of any other lawsuits that are currently in motion and where they would be right now?
So from what I understand, based on a response from the board president of Chino Valley Unified School District, there was a court case where the state of California sued Chino Valley based on their original parental notification. And my understanding is that that case is still in process.
Excellent. Okay, so what we'll do is for the audience, we'll go ahead and look at that particular case, find out where it is in the process, and report accordingly. So please share more information. The article that you're going to be sending out here shortly is pretty jam-packed with a lot of good information for people, Californians. Now, why is this so important, you ask? What happens in California? The laws that they embed, they are heading your direction. And the more progressive policies they put here, all those blue states, and you can name many of them now, you're going to be looking at the same laws being ratified in your state. That's why it's so important for you to listen in and be aware.
Well, speaking about Parents Association, I'd like to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the California Parents Union.
Oh,
So
yes. Congratulations. You've been crowned as the executive director through an arduous interview process, I believe. Well, congratulations, Flor. Well deserved.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very pleased and excited to take on that role. So the California Parents Union actually is a organization that's meant to create a comparable voice in education and just general policies related to children that is equivalent to the current California Teachers Association. So there's a lot of concern right now among parents involved within this, what they call fight for parental rights that's surrounding AB 1955 and other bills, as well as even some school teachers and administrators who are really concerned that right now that a lot of educational policies are being overshadowed by the influence of the California teachers unions, who have a very close tie with many policymakers in Sacramento, as well as on the school boards. And those people are utilized to bring forth a lot of these agendas that have very little to do with what parents want.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, my time working in front of Assembly and Senate in Sacramento, you meet with California Teachers Association and the union, in their positions in supporting bills have been anti-family, anti-children. And it really kind of begs the question, really, truly, who are they? What are they doing? Who's behind it? And the money flow.
A large part of AB 1955 that talks about services that are going to be offered to parents and guardians to support their kids in situations related to sexual orientation and gender identity. So what's curious about this section is, how can parents be able to take part in those services when they're not aware because of the restrictions that have been set forth as part of this bill, whether they are perceived restrictions or whether they are the firm restrictions in regards to the policy?
That's very similar to what they were saying about that the teachers are free to communicate with the parents, yet we're finding that that's not the case. And this as well, services that are dedicated to inform and be a support group for parents and the children you can't communicate with the parents. How can you really truly provide? So the question is where that money's going to, who is it funding? And we can really actually unpack that in a greater detail as we do further research into these other organizations.
That's a really great point, James, because the bill is written as if it was possibly an expansion of services. And so again, that leads into potential of putting aside funds for those services. And is that really a good use of those funds, given the fact that how many parents would be able to utilize those services, again, because many children and many staff members may request to keep parents in the dark.
Well, yeah, well, honestly, we should be asking the taxpayers of California if they know about this, and more importantly, do they feel this is a proper use of their tax dollars?
And that's actually a really great point too, because in addition to the potential expanded services mentioned in the bill, there also is the monies that were used, taxpayer monies that were used to actually make this bill formal. And again, was this really truly in the interest of the voters of California, many of whom are parents and grandparents and guardians?
Absolutely. So you interviewed a few other people. Maybe you can bring them by name and the conclusion or your observations during that interview process.
Yes, I actually did reach out to Attorney General Bonta's office, and he did give us formal statement related to this bill. And I can read that. Okay. So this is the formal statement from California Attorney General Bonta's office. Quote, "Our schools should be safe havens for all students, not places where some are marginalized for simply being who they are. Amidst the growing assault on LGBTQ plus rights in California and across the nation, it's crucial that schools take the necessary steps to create an environment where every student feels valued and affirmed for who they are. The SAFETY Act reaffirms students' constitutional and statutory rights not to be subjected to forced outing at school. And it also reaffirms that forced outing policies and any form of retaliation against teachers, parents, and allies who protect students against such constitutional and statutory harms are a clear violation of state law. As we continue to reinforce California's commitment to provide safe and inclusive educational spaces that uphold the rights of all students, my office commends the LGBTQ caucus for their leadership and Governor Newsom for signing the SAFETY Act into law to ensure no student is ever forcibly outed against their will, especially when such disclosure could result in serious harm." End quote.
Now, let me ask you a couple of questions regarding that statement. Constitutional right of a child. From my understanding, you have to be an emancipated minor. There's certain laws around emancipation. But more importantly, I think the parent has the fiscal and duty to care for a child up to the age of 18 or 21, I guess, in certain states. So constitutional rights of children, that falls under the parent, I believe, and the parent's ability and their right to take care of the child.
Welcome to Uncensored Beat.
I showed up. U.S. citizen is not permitted entry.
Over the next big attack.
Zelensky's seemingly fraudulent election.
Bilateral security agreement President Joe Biden signed.
Quebec, the communist capital of North America.
What do Ukrainians think about US? Some believe that the US is to blame for this war.
There's been some question also in regards to the issue of privacy. So some who do not support the bill claim that if everybody else but the parent or guardian knows about the child's sexual orientation or gender identity, then basically the child has waived his or her right to privacy. So that's kind of a question that's been posed. Also, again, we had mentioned earlier about the constitutional rights of parents secured by the 14th Amendment. It's also interesting to know, as you mentioned, in California, there is a rigorous legal process that a minor must undergo to claim full independence, or what they call emancipation. Minor is not emancipated in California and isn't under the guardianship of a parent or guardian. That child is then under the ward of the state, where the state acts on behalf of that child's interest. So in that case, they're really, that the claim of rights of children is really questionable.
You did send out a questionnaire to a few other politicians. Would you care to comment on the findings there?
Yes. So I did actually get a response from the presidents of both the Orange County Department of Education, Dr. Ken Williams, as well as Sonia Shaw, who is the president of the Chino Valley Unified School District. Now, Dr. Williams had called the AB 1955, which is referred to as the Safety Act. He called that Orwellian doublespeak, that the bill itself has nothing to do with protecting children or infants, and it actually puts them in danger. So I do have a direct quote from Sonia Shaw. Sonia Shaw of the Chino Valley Unified School District stated the following, quote, "Who in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to create and pass laws that make it illegal for parents to be a part of their child's educational experience? The morally corrupt political cartel of Thurman, Bonta, and Newsom. Remember their names, their unions, and special interest groups, and the harm they have done to families when you vote." End quote.
It's a very strong, powerful statement. And I tend to agree with her. Now, did you speak with any or to interview anyone further regarding this topic?
Yes, I did speak again with Assemblyman Ward's office. The again, Ward was the one who drafted the bill. And one of the things that he did want to reiterate, and specifically in regards to the services offered, is that the extended services offered does not refer to medical treatments in relation to gender transitioning. So as his office emphasized, that still requires parental notification. There was a bill passed about 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago in 2021, called AB 1184. So that bill actually allowed minors as young as 12 to seek outpatient mental health services without notification of the parent. And it actually mandated insurance policies that were paid by parents to cover those services, also without notifying the parent. Curiously enough, that particular bill had consequences for insurance companies who did not comply.
Interesting. Wow. All I can say is wow. And hopefully the parents are listening in on this one, because if you're not, please do, because there's so much content that you need to be aware of, and your responsibilities are number one as a parent. And
Yes, it's really concerning too. I mean, I just want to just continue real briefly. Like, it's really concerning because the establishment of that bill had created a pipeline, a very strong pipeline between schools and medical organizations. So locally here in Orange County, we have Children's Hospital of Orange, Children's Hospital of Orange County. Yes.
well, Children's
Sorry.
Hospital of Orange County, yes, CHOC. And
Yes.
it was initially founded by Disney and Mr. Knott. And then in St. Joseph's, which is a religious organization, was part owner to it now. Fast forward to today, please continue. So I just want to have a little background on what CHOC really is. It's one of the premier hospitals for children here in the state of California.
Correct. Thanks so much, James. So CHOC actually has taken part in supporting some of those outpatient services, which now have extended to be on site in various schools. Recently, there have been several grants and contracts signed amongst different school districts as well as the county in support of those services. Again, that under the guise of a potential non-disclosure to parents.
Wow. They're going completely against the spirit and the mission that was initially the formation of the hospital, which is really tragic to speak of. But again, this is considered a PSA, public service announcement, being aware of what's happening around you that you normally don't have time to really investigate. We'll do that for you.
The other thing too is, as part of, and my understanding, this is how it's always been in regards to specifically gender transitioning. Prior to a medical transitioning, there is a long period of time that involves mental health care related to anyone who is considering that. So, that is something that is concerning, considering that this is considered prep work for what could be potential medical care later on.
Yeah, some equated this to kind of a medical spin where doctors were making quite a bit of money. Well, there was a number that was floating. It's roughly, for the transitioning of a child, is roughly $1 million. So when a physician or health organization, they look at their financials, they're saying, gee, forget about the Hippocratic Oath. Let's just go for that $1 million, and we can meet our stockholders and we have a successful year.
A couple of different groups that I have attended and events that I've attended related to concerns about minors transitioning. There have been references to the studies in Sweden and Britain who have decided to shut down their affirmation programs that refer to a very large number of people detransitioning. And we have seen that actually, or have word of that here happening right now, related to several youth, young adults who decided to transition as minors. And there's a growing number of them who are detransitioning. And many of them, if you check out the film No Way Out, it interviews many detransitioners who had wished they had received an alternative argument for transition. And they felt that if they could have heard that, number one, it could be temporary, or some of the effects of that would happen if you were to choose medical transition, they would probably think twice.
Yeah, you bring up some really good points there, Flor. Coming from the medical community back when I was chief executive officer, we were considered at that time in the world stage as one of the premier healthcare systems in the world. But to note that Sweden, was it? Sweden and what other countries that are
Great Britain.
Great Britain, no longer promoting the transition or the gender affirming care. That should be telltale, but why the AMA, as well as our medical boards, are ignoring that is really brings great pause.
I think that's the question of the year.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with the public before we say goodbye? And hopefully they can have their friends like, subscribe, and also be part of this growing mass sensation of the Uncensored Beat.
So I guess it would be my shameless plug for anyone who's interested to join the California Parents Union. So there is definitely strength in numbers. So I would encourage everyone out there to take a look at californiaparentsunion.com and sign up to become a member.
Let me add to that too, because the California Parents Union is like one of the unsung heroes. They've been in Sacramento fighting against the masking mandates, and now really a strong presence there fighting for our children and our parents' rights. So this is the proactive part of what you can do. I believe you're doing a membership drive, and this empowers the parents, and you're part of a new union so you can have a voice in Sacramento and shape legislation in the state of California. Am I correct in that assumption?
Absolutely. And we'd love for you to join us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Flor, for sharing those insights, that research that you did. And now for everybody, please like and subscribe and share this around, because we're going to have some really great content coming the next couple of episodes. We're going to be digging deeper into a few places. In fact, you'll find very interesting. Ukraine. We're going to be in the northern part of Africa. We're going to be in Nigeria. We'll have a light discussion regarding Israel. We have some independent international reporters. They'll be calling in as well, sharing what they're finding on the ground. So everyone, thank you for listening. And Flor, one final thing you want to say before I say goodbye to everybody?
So for those of you who have a like for art, we do have our creative channel as well. So we will be also publishing our 3rd episode of the Uncensored Beat Open Mic Hour. So
please look for us again. Thank you for listening. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Welcome to Uncensored Beat.
I showed up. U.S. citizen is not permitted entry.
Whatever the next big attack.
Zelensky's seemingly fraudulent election.